All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going down under, all the way to Australia.
You know it.
For a truly bizarre crime.
Absolutely. This one is, it's pretty out there.
We're talking the Great Emu Heist of 2018.
The Great Emu Heist.
Yeah.
I love it.
And our source material is a true crime comedy podcast called MASMurderTapes.
Very good podcast. Yeah.
So picture this. It's a quiet farm, peaceful, in Queensland, Australia. And this farmer, he wakes up one morning and he realizes something is not right.
Yeah, he's missing something.
Something is definitely missing. His 3 emus, which are usually just roaming around their pen, they vanish. Poof. Gone.
Gone.
And if you've never seen an emu, like an ostrich.
Yeah.
But like angrier and dumber.
Yeah.
And like they refuse to follow instruction.
Yes. They do not take direction well.
No.
That's for sure.
Yeah, big birds.
Yeah, emus are actually pretty fascinating creatures. Even though they can't fly, they can run like the wind up to like 30 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
And they have these really powerful legs with like 3 toes on each foot. Each of those toes has a huge claw. Ooh. So they're not just big and fast. They can really pack a punch if they feel threatened.
Yeah.
You would not want to get on the wrong side of an emu.
No. And the MAS Murder Tapes episode actually plays an audio clip from the farmer describing this discovery.
Let's hear it.
He's like, I went out to feed him, like I do every morning. And the gate's wide open, pen's empty. Just feathers and dust devils. Never seen anything like it.
They were not going to be taken so easily. The plot thickens as the thieves and emus prepare for a hilarious
showdown. I know,
showdown.
It sounds like, straight out of a cartoon.
Right, like a Roadrunner cartoon or something.
Quick, grab them! Shouted
What
Rocco,
makes this
but the
more
emus
than
were too
just
fast.
some
They dodged
funny
and
farm story is that it actually shows how hard it is to keep these big flightless birds contained.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Your average farm fence, that's not going to cut it with a determined emu. They can jump, they can kick. They can even barge their way through if they really want to.
Especially if they get spooked or, as we're going to learn, stolen.
Ooh, stolen.
Yeah, things are about to take a turn here.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so about 2 miles from the farm, there's this gas station.
Okay.
They've got security cameras. And on the security footage, a speeding pickup truck
Okay.
with 3 emus
No way.
in the back. The footage is just, it's nuts. The MAS Murder Tapes host, he describes it as a feathered tornado.
That is amazing.
Because you've got their, the heads are poking out, feathers are just flying everywhere.
Oh my goodness.
It's chaos on wheels.
I can only imagine. So who are these emu nappers?
Well, the podcast has a little snippet from an interview with one of the suspects.
Okay.
And he says, and it's that thick Australian accent. He's like, we just thought it'd be a laugh, mate. Rock up to a party with 3 emus. Instant legends.
Oh, so they were planning to bring these emus to a party.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bold move. I mean, talk about making an entrance.
Right. They thought this was their ticket to instant party fame.
But it sounds like they severely underestimated just how much trouble 3 emus can be.
They did. They had no idea. They were in for a rude awakening, let me tell you that.
I bet.
I mean, can you imagine, actually trying to bring 3 emus into a party?
I mean, it's hilarious to think about, but in reality, it's a recipe for disaster.
Disaster.
Emus are not exactly known for their party manners.
No.
They can be pretty skittish and easily spooked, and when they get stressed, they tend to lash out.
With those claws and those legs.
Exactly. They can deliver a powerful kick that can really do some damage.
Yeah, not exactly the kind of guest you want at your, chill get-together.
No, definitely not. This sounds less like a party and more like a scene from a nature documentary gone wrong.
Oh, completely. And the MAS Murder Tapes episode, they actually describe the party as absolute mayhem.
Oh, no.
Feathers everywhere. Furniture destroyed.
Oh, my.
And apparently one guy got drop-kicked so hard, he had an emu footprint-shaped bruise on his chest.
Oh, my goodness. That's going to leave a mark. Literally.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they didn't just call it a night right then and there.
I know, right? But what happened next? What did these emu nappers do when they realized that they had, bitten off way more than they could chew?
Well, according to the podcast, the next morning rolls around.
Okay.
And they're faced with 3 very hungover emus.
Oh, no.
And a completely trashed party house.
Oh, man.
And they make a decision, a hasty one.
Okay, what did they do?
They load the emus back into the truck, drive them right back to that farm,
Okay.
dump them outside the gate,
They just left them there.
and speed off.
Wow, they really cut their losses and ran.
I guess they realized that emus weren't exactly the low-maintenance party guests they were hoping for.
No kidding. So the emus were back home, but I imagine they weren't looking too happy about the whole experience.
No, not at all. MASMurderTapes plays another clip of the farmer, this time finding the emus back in their pen.
What did he say?
He says they looked a bit worse for wear, poor buggers, like they'd been out on a bender themselves.
Poor emus.
Yeah.
You got to feel for them, right? One minute, they're peacefully pecking around on the farm. The next, they're being bundled into a truck, forced to party, and then just unceremoniously dumped back home. What a night.
Talk about a rough morning after. It really makes you wonder what was going through those emus' minds.
I know, right? It's a good reminder that even in a story as ridiculous as this, there's a real animal welfare aspect to consider. These birds were clearly put through a stressful, probably even traumatic experience.
Absolutely. So the emus are back home, a little worse for wear, but safe. But what about the perpetrators of this feathered felony? Did they get away with their audacious emu napping?
Well, let's just say the local police, maybe a little bit amused by the whole thing, they decided to track down these culprits. And as we'll discuss in the next part of our deep dive, the consequences for their emu-centric escapade were more than just a hangover.
Oh boy, this is getting good.
It is. Buckle up. The MASMurderTapes episode, it goes into like all the details of how the police track down these emu nappers.
Okay.
And it is hilarious.
Yeah.
You can like practically hear the amusement in these officers' voices when they're interviewing these guys.
Right.
It's clear that these guys, they weren't exactly criminal masterminds.
Yeah. No.
They messed up pretty bad.
Yeah.
They were identified super quick and ended up facing fines for theft and property damage.
I can imagine those fines definitely put a dent in their party fund.
I would think so.
But this whole thing makes me think, like, could this whole heist have even been prevented in the first place?
That is a good question.
I mean, if emus are so hard to, like, contain, are there any security measures that could have, like, stopped these emu thieves?
That's a great question, and it actually leads us to a really interesting conversation about emus.
Okay.
About their potential as guard animals.
Wait, hold on. Guard emus?
Guard emus.
You're serious?
I am completely serious.
Okay.
It might sound a little crazy at first, but hear me out. Emus, they're naturally territorial,
right.
Very protective. They're actually already being used to guard livestock in some areas.
Really?
Yeah, especially against like foxes and dingoes.
Okay, so they're like the bouncers of the outback.
Pretty much.
I'm kind of intrigued, but wouldn't their unpredictable nature be like a liability?
It could be.
I mean, we just heard about what happened at that party.
Oh, absolutely.
It was chaos.
Parenting and socialization, super important.
Yeah.
Just like with any guard animal, clear boundaries, consistent handling.
Right.
That's going to be essential to manage their behavior and keep everything under control.
So you're saying with the right training, an emu could be like a real asset.
Huge asset.
To a farm's security system.
Exactly.
Instead of being victims of a heist, they could be like protectors.
Exactly. Think about it. Imagine those emu thieves walking up to that farm, right? All sneaky.
Yeah.
But instead of an easy target, they're met by this 6-foot-tall emu.
Yeah.
Just staring them down with those powerful legs ready to strike.
Yeah, they would have thought twice.
I think so. They might have just turned around and walked away.
I have to admit, the image of an emu standing guard, it's pretty hilarious.
It's a little bit funny.
But also kind of badass.
It's intimidating.
It's like something out of like a weird Australian Western.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the case here for a second.
Okay.
We've talked about the emus, the thieves, the wild party, the potential for emus as like security guards.
Right.
But we haven't really gone into the legal consequences for the perpetrators.
That's true.
Like, what did they actually face beyond just the fines?
Well, the MASMurderTapes episode, they mentioned that on top of the fines for theft and property damage,
right.
This whole thing, it kind of sparked a discussion about animal welfare laws in Queensland.
Really?
Yeah. The authorities, they wanted to make sure that these emus, they weren't being mistreated during their brief time as party animals.
Yeah.
It raises a really interesting question, How do you actually prove that an emu has been, like, emotionally distressed?
Yeah, you can't exactly, like, give an emu a therapy session or anything.
Right.
But it's a good point.
Yeah.
Like, this whole story might seem like a total joke.
I mean, it is pretty funny.
But it does bring up some real ethical stuff.
Important ethical consideration.
About how we treat animals.
Yeah.
Even the ones that aren't, your typical, like, household pets.
Like your average cat or dog, right?
Right.
Yeah.
These emus, they were treated more like objects than living, breathing creatures.
They were stolen, transported in a dangerous way, exposed to this crazy, stressful environment.
Right.
It really highlights the need for more awareness.
Yeah.
More empathy towards all animals, no matter how, how comical or how unusual they might seem to us.
It's funny how a story that, like, starts out as pure entertainment can, like, lead to these pretty deep reflections.
I know. That's what I love about these deep dives.
Yeah.
We start with something seemingly simple.
Right.
But we end up exploring all these complex, interconnected ideas.
Speaking of interconnected ideas, do you think the MASMurderTapes hosts, when they were putting this episode together, do you think they meant to, like, start this kind of conversation about animal welfare?
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
But I think what's really interesting is that by presenting this story in such a humorous way, they made it accessible to a much wider audience.
Right.
People who might not normally think about animal welfare, they might find themselves engaged in the conversation because it's funny.
I think that's a really good point.
Sometimes humor is the best way to get people thinking
Yeah.
about serious issues.
Than like a straight up lecture or something.
Exactly.
It's like sneaking in the vegetables with the mac and cheese,
Exactly.
And in this case, it's gotten us to think not only about how we treat emus ethically,
Right.
but also about their potential as these unlikely security guards.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It has been a wild ride.
From a simple emu heist to, animal welfare and guard emus.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
But as we wrap up this part of the deep dive, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Do you think this incident, had any lasting impact on that community? Where it took place?
I wonder.
Did it change people's views on emus?
Interesting.
Or lead to changes in farm security?
Let's find out.
It makes you think, did this farmer actually beef up his security after all this?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he didn't.
Maybe he went out and got some super heavy-duty emu-proof fencing.
Right. Or maybe even thought about, training those remaining emus for guard duty.
Yeah, all right, you guys, you saw what happened. Time to step up.
Exactly.
Who would have thought emus would be a target for theft? It's not like they're, racehorses or something.
Yeah, you don't hear about emu rustling every day.
No, not really. But it does make you realize that even these, ordinary creatures, they can become victims of these totally bizarre crimes.
It's a good reminder that security measures, they need to adapt.
Yeah.
You got to be prepared for the unexpected.
You really do. And maybe this whole thing even got people thinking about emus in a different way.
How so?
Not just as these funny-looking birds,
Right.
but as potential protectors.
Yeah, maybe they earned some newfound respect after this whole ordeal.
I think so. But you know what? The MASMurderTapes episode, they end on this cliffhanger.
Oh, no, tell me.
They play a recording of a voicemail that was left for the farmer
Okay.
a few weeks after this whole incident went down.
Okay.
And you hear this voice whispering,
Ooh, spooky.
"We're coming back for the emus."
Are you serious? They threatened to seal them again?
But the podcast hosts, they leave it totally open.
Oh, man.
They never say if it was a real threat
Right.
or just someone messing with the farmer.
Oh, that's so good.
I know, right?
It's both hilarious and kind of terrifying.
I know.
I'd be looking over my shoulder if I were that farmer.
Yeah, I'd invest in some serious security.
For sure.
At the end of the day, what's the big takeaway from all of this? What can we, as listeners, what do we take away from this deep dive?
I think it's a reminder that even the craziest, most out there stories, they can teach us something.
Right.
I mean, this whole thing started with an emu heist, and we ended up talking about animal welfare, farm security, and even the idea of, guard emus.
Exactly. And it reminds us that the world is full of surprises.
Oh, absolutely.
You never know what kind of crazy headline you're going to wake up to tomorrow.
That's true.
Right.
That's the beauty of it all.
It is.
It keeps things interesting.
I think it's safe to say that we have officially squeezed every last drop of insight
I think so.
out of this emutastic tale.
We covered it all.
We did. The crime, the chaos, all the ethical stuff, even those guard emus.
It was a wild ride.
So, dear listeners, we leave you with this. Next time you see an emu, just take a moment.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, unique blend of awkwardness and power that they have.
It's a special combination.
It is. And who knows, maybe one day you'll run into a guard emu.
You never know.
Protecting its territory.
With that intense stare.
And those powerful legs.
It's a force to be reckoned with.
It is. Until next time, everyone, stay curious.
Stay informed.
And always be on the lookout for those stories, the ones that make you laugh.
Think you think.
And maybe even question everything you thought you knew about the world.
That's what we're here for.
Exactly. See you next time.
See you later.